Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel for another Flea Market Finds episode. This is stuff that I picked at the September 15th, 2024 outdoor flea market. And boy, I had a pretty good day, so let's dive right in. One of the gentlemen who occasionally brings machinist tools, he had some pretty good stuff there, and there were two pieces in particular that when he started the morning, he wanted $100 a piece on firm, and he wouldn't budge. And then I ended up working on them. Well, I'll get to that in a moment because I did end up buying one of those two pieces. But what I did do is I went through his boxes of stuff there and I focused on stuff that I kind of felt he probably wouldn't put a super high value on. That being said, the one Starrett item I was able to grab out of this deal here, this little lot, was this nice little Starrett 91B tap wrench. It's an excellent shape. I bundled this wrench, this MSC badged dial caliper, this Starrett tap wrench. Actually, I forgot this is all, yeah, that's right. So this is also Starrett. This is a 93A tap wrench. And these three loose random Walton tap extractors. Now, some of these are missing fingers, these little metal parts right here. Now these break and can be replaced, so you can get replacement ones. But still, it's nice if you don't have to. So I think when I went back later, I ended up buying a couple other random items and did find some more of these fingers just in the box that he gave to me. And I think I bought some more of these Hansons too. So let's just, for the time being, let's focus on what we got here. So for 25 bucks, I got the two tap wrenches, the dial caliper, and the the Walton tap extractors. So pretty good deal. Later I went back and I spotted this double-headed pin vise. This is General Hardware, so not a heck of a lot of value there. I got that I think for $2 or $3. I don't remember exactly. One of the guys I buy from pretty regularly, he had this automatic center punch sitting there for $5, and it's an early brown and sharp. So when I first saw this center punch laying there and I tested it, I thought it was broken because it was adjusted to the maximum or the minimum force. And this is a very, very light force center punch. It doesn't even make it a mark in this aluminum table at that setting. If you back it out, it does get a little bit firmer. So it is actually working. It's just a very lightly rated center punch. And the tip appears to be a, what I suspect happened here is that they lost the tip, or the tip was broken, and they made a tip out of a screw because it's got threads on it so it can thread in, and then it's got a point ground on it. So I think that's somebody's little repair there. But it's kind of a neat little center punch. He had 5 on it. He was going to let me have it for 3. When I thought it was broken, he says, "Oh, just take it." And then when I realized it wasn't broken, I paid him the 3 for it. He was also having a clearance sale of sorts on some of this other stuff he had in a box. All of these items were normally $5 a piece, but he informed me that, well, he wanted to clear the stuff out, so he said $3 a piece for anything in the box. So I went through and I looked at some of the indicators he had, and I explained to him some of them were pretty much broken. Wouldn't be worth doing anything with. It'd be good parts indicators is all. This is a Fowler that seems to work perfectly fine, so I snagged that for $3. This is a Fowler 1 to 2 inch micrometer that actually, the lock still works on it, and it's got this cute little teddy bear logo above Fowler, which I've never seen before. Here's an Enco, made in China.
China!
Enco. Seems to work perfectly fine. It's even got a snug on the back. And then these two right here. This is a early Ames indicator box that has a Schar's indicator in it. And the Schar's indicator, it's got a crack in the plastic there, but it's a little sluggish on the return, but it's still working. I probably can find an Ames indicator that will go in this box better. And then here's another Ames indicator box. This one actually does have the Ames indicator in it. I thought it was kind of a neat looking one, and it seems to work perfectly fine. And again, only $3. And I went by this guy's spot. He had a whole bunch of old welding stuff and everything, and I noticed this box. It's Tweco, right? So sure enough, it's a bunch of miscellaneous Tweco connector stuff. So these are the boots to go over Tweco connectors. This is like if you want to make extension cables for your welding leads, or if you have quick connects, Tweco type fittings, you can actually make yourself a stinger and that kind of stuff. And then these right here are actually, these are for splicing two welding cables together. So it's you know, this tube, I don't know what this type of plastic or whatever this is made out of, but obviously it's highly insulated, and it says right on it, this is a BP 1030 Tweco cable splicer right on there. So if we were to take this screw out, what would fall out of here is a nice big hunk of brass in there for crimping down on. So you take this screw out, you slide this off, that exposes the two screws that allow you to crimp this down onto the bare copper conductor, splice it. So I've got several of those. So I've got 6 of the splicers, 3 of these boots with nothing in them, this boot which has a female connector in it, and then these miscellaneous connectors which would go in these other boots. So well, that's interesting. So this would, well, I'm not sure what that one's for, because that one would allow you to crimp down on the cable on one side and then have a threaded end. That's a male connector right there. So I got 2 of those, actually 3. So these are what the connectors look like. So this goes in like this, you turn it, now that kind of locks it in there. This is squeezed down by the looks of it. It's not supposed to be that loose. Let me put a good one in there. Oh, that one's a little too tight. There we go, that one's just right. So that goes in there like that, and then you turn it and it locks in. You get the gist of it though. $10 for that lot. Oh, and also there was one of these in there, one of these big old Tweco lug connectors. So I just looked it up. You can still buy these. They were about $32 for a new one. I went back a little later and was digging through the bottom of one of his boxes and found this nice Mueller, M-U-E-L-L-E-R, electric company of Cleveland, Ohio, made in the USA, welding clamp. And I got this for like $3. The only thing about this is that it appears to be a crimp connector, but you can undo it from right here and put a different style one on there, I guess. Oh, that's a good hand exerciser, I'll tell you that. You guys who follow my channel know I'm a sucker for vintage electronics. The gentleman had some stuff on his table that caught my eye. In particular, anything with the name Sencore on it draws me like flies to a road apple. Unfortunately, he wanted $30 for this cream puff. This is a Sencore field effect meter. Alright, so this uses field effect transistors, and this was designed to be probably an early replacement for the old vacuum tube voltmeters. So the idea is that this would be a meter that would give you a very high input impedance. That being said, he had no leads, no case. It was just the meter, just like this. And he actually had on here, this is a model FE14, uses a 1.5 volt C battery and a 9 volt battery to operate. And I went back later when I was getting ready to leave. He still had it on the table, and I told him, I said, I don't know what you need to get for it, but I said, I'd offer you 10. And he said, how about 15? And I said, I'll tell you, I said, 10's all I'd pay because I really don't need it, but I like it. I just don't like it that much. And he said, yeah, okay, sure. So he sold it to me for $10. So before I put this away, I'll make sure that there are no batteries in there. It's not doing anything right now, so I'm assuming there are no batteries in there, but just to be sure. Oh, my mistake. This Sencore wasn't one of the $3 indicators. This was actually one of the $3 indicators I got. And the reason why I bought this one was because it's a small size central gauge that has this super sharp point on it, which I thought, well, that's a little bit different, and somebody mounted it to this bar so it could be easy enough to mount on a tool post on a lathe. Got a nice knurled knob on the back there to tighten it down. No, the Enco was part of this lot that I paid $35 for, which was this Enco Chinese indicator, this Starrett 196 indicator, which works perfectly and actually comes with a couple of the different button style backs to go on that in the little envelope there. And also this 196G, this is also a 645G, meaning that this is a clamp with a snug and the rod for a 196 indicator, but I guess also could be used for a 645. With the original box was kind of nice. I was not really too keen on paying $35 for this lot, but this is a gentleman I bought from before, and he set stuff aside for me, so I have to keep him happy. He's got more stuff coming, he says. Went back to the guy who had the expensive machinist tools at the beginning and made an offer of 20 bucks on this, which he accepted, and that's when I found he wanted 25. Or maybe it was 20. I don't remember. Then I got him to agree to take in the 20 if he'd throw in this one odd Walton tap extractor that I missed from before, and then also throw in this one finger, which goes to one of the ones I had bought earlier. And this little tiny sleeve is for a really small one that I don't even think is in this lot. This, of course, is an Indicall clone. Oh, no, my mistake. This is a genuine Indicall 178. I didn't even realize that. Lots of times these are knockoffs, but that's a genuine Indicall 178. 178 means it's for a 1 7/8 inch, a 1 7/8 inch quill. And so you get this piece and this piece is what normally comes in this kit. I don't know what's missing from here. But then this also had this in there, which is something that's not original to the kit, but it actually fits over one of these, so it's some kind of little accessory somebody made. And then there's also a couple of these little indicator deals here. So anyways, that's not bad. From another dealer I got, he was just like super cheap on stuff, so what ended up happening was I walked up and I picked up this big woodworker's clamp, and I wanted to see if it was a Jurgensen, and I picked it up and I saw that it was a Craftsman, and it's still a nice clamp, but I was like, I started to put it down, and before I could put it down, he said $2. So I was like, oh. I said, well, you're forcing me to buy it at $2. So $2 for this nice old wooden Craftsman clamp. So then I started looking through his other stuff there, and I got this nice J.H. Williams C-clamp for $2. He had some old files and stuff in a box. I've got plenty of old files, but this one, I love the handle on it. I was like, look at the size of the handle on this thing. It's great handle on that thing. So I got this one, and then I spotted this one also has a handle. Now this handle I've got a few with this handle, so this was the more common one from back in the day. But I don't know where the heck that handle came from. I know it's a bastard file, but you know, no big deal. But isn't the handle nice? $2 for those two files with those great handles on them. And $2 for this pair of pliers, which say vacuum grip number 137. Vacuum grip number 137. Well, wouldn't you know it, on the other side, it's kind of hard to see, but they're Snap-ons. So I got these for $2, and I looked them up, and I think these trade for like 20, 25 bucks, these early ones. Apparently they still make these, I think, but now they have big molded plastic handles. Now these never had plastic handles, so these are earlier. They actually have this funky reptilian looking design on them. Looks like I don't know, like a tentacles or something on an octopus. So those will probably end up having to go to eBay. One of the guys that's there with his partner, and they sell a ton of tools. They only bring tools of all types. They were there, and I noticed they had these 2 old drum switches from a lathe or some sort of machine. Drum switches, for those of you who don't know, are typically used to do forward and reversing on a machine, and they tend to bring decent money. And he had the 2 of them there, and they were $15 each was what he was asking for them. And so I went back later on, and he still had them, and I said, would you take 20 for the pair? And he said, sure. So I got these for $10 each. Now, they do not, kind of taking a chance on these because they don't really move like they should. Probably should have took a quick look inside these things before I bought them. Oh, okay, that's what's going on. Somebody had a retaining collar for a Romex clamp connector. It's not the one that's in there. And that was jammed in here. So yeah, so now with that out, so this one clicks like it should. Interesting, a little bit different design, but they're both Dayton's. So this one looks older. This must be an earlier design. But you can see this little piece right here. That's got a little wheel that rides along this plate. It's like a cam action, and that's what actually allows it to click in. Okay. This one, the wheel is missing. So unfortunately, this one is broke. It doesn't click in, but it still is perfectly serviceable actually because of the way this is designed. It will still make really good contact. You just got to make sure you turn it all the way to the left or to the right. Yeah, so this Starrett drop indicator was part of this deal for $35. It's a nice clean Starrett drop indicator. And again, because 3 of these items that I got from him have Starrett on them, he figured that he needed to get a little bit more money for them. So anyways, getting back to the pick, the gentleman who I bought the Tweco connectors from when I first walked up to buy the Tweco connectors from him, he had stuff just piled up and it was kind of a mess. He just kind of dumped a bunch of stuff out and was selling stuff cheap. And I spotted this CB radio, spotted the label Cobra, and look what it is. It's another one of these Cobra 29s. This is one of the weather alert ones. This is the Cobra 29 WX NWST sound tracker. So these were nice radios in the day, and I spotted this, and then I spotted another microphone, so I went to pull the microphone out to see what it was attached to, and it was nothing. It was just attached to, and it was attached to nothing. So this one is a Trucking 300 or Trucking 30. Yeah, no, it's a Trucking 300 microphone. Whoever the heck makes that, I have no idea. It's got kind of a neat shape to it though, and I knew he wasn't going to want much for that. I kind of suspected the radio was going to be cheap too, so I asked him, I said, how about $10 for this and this radio and the extra mic? And he said, sure. So I got this nice Cobra for $10. Then the funny thing is, he had bins on his trailer he hadn't even unloaded yet. And when I went back later and ended up buying that spring clamp from him, this clamp from him, right? I happened to go over and look at the trailer, and I noticed that he had another tote there, and I asked him if he had any more radios, and he says, oh yeah, he says, I think in that tote there. So I went over and opened up the tote, and I find 2 more Cobras. Another 29. This one is, I think, this is the 29 LTD Classic. Okay, so this doesn't have the sound tracker and weather radio stuff like the previous one. And what it does have though is it has what looks like an original Cobra microphone on it. And then it's not in the greatest of shape, but check that out. The Cobra 148 GTL. So you guys who know radios know that this was a very popular sideband 40 channel model mobile radio that Cobra came out with. And it's looking rough, but I said, how about 15 bucks for these two radios and the microphone? Chrome colored microphone. And he said, sure. And then I made a comment about how there are no power cables for any of these radios, which is why when I usually buy these, I'm usually buying them with the understanding that there's a very high probability that they don't work, that they need something. Then he explained to me, he worked at a salvage yard, an auto salvage yard, and when he would be driving the cars over to the crusher, oftentimes he would notice that there'd be radios in them, CB radios. So he would just pull the CB radios out and set them aside. And then he just kept bringing them home, I guess. And I don't know if he gave them away or what he did with them. I think he said some of these radios actually worked and he used them. And then now he's cleaning out his shop from the looks of it. Whatever, all I know is that I scored 3 Cobra radios and I think maybe 4 microphones for a whopping 25 bucks. Not bad. I'll go one more item here before we get to the mystery item that the guy wanted 100 bucks for, that I went back and ended up cutting a deal on. So inside this fancy schmancy case is this doohickey. Now it's got a little bit of surface rust on it in places, which is going to hurt the value if it still does have value. And I wouldn't know what the hell that thing is if it wasn't for the fact that fortunately this was still in the box with it. So this is the Keystone Clockmaker's depthing tool. Now it clearly shows on the cover, it shows this long pendulum looking thingy, okay, that apparently is missing. Instead, there's this thing, got a sharp end on one side and that on the other side. And this thing with a sharp cone on one side, a couple of extra cone tips. These rods in here either have a concave end, or you can flip them around, and underneath these plastic things that are protecting you from getting stabbed are very sharp points. So what these are for supporting the different gears and balance wheels and things like that you use in clock making. So there's an example of what you're supposed to do with this thing. So it occurred to me that even with that other doohickey missing, maybe you could still do this job with this thing. Then there's other stuff going on here. I don't know. I'm not a clock making guy, but it's got to be worth something. I paid 10 bucks for it. It's got to be worth more than 10 bucks to somebody, I think, even with the piece missing. I might end up keeping this case. I'm not convinced that this case even belongs to this thing. This might be just a nice case that somebody decided to put it in. No name on the case. So last but not least is this little Starrett item right here. And of all things that I would pay big money for, a Starrett micrometer? Come on, really? I've got so many micrometers that I really don't like buying them unless they're really cheap. And this was not cheap. He wanted 100 bucks. He came down to 80 at one point, and then when I was leaving, I went back and I got him to take 75 for it. And he was begrudgingly taking some, at least he was putting on a good show and acting like I was robbing him at 75 bucks. But what's in here is this Starrett 0 to 1 inch micrometer, which has got a little secret. So it's a model 221, as you can see, it's a model 221, but what it's got is it's got this extra little part of the barrel right there. And what this is I believe this is called an inspector's micrometer. So the idea is that this is supposed to go to yet one more decimal place of resolution. So instead of just being a thousandths or tenths of a thousandths micrometer, this, I think, is up to 100 thousandths. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. For our purposes here, all you need to know is that this micrometer in used condition routinely trades for over 100 bucks on eBay. So I'm satisfied putting 75 bucks up for this thing because it seems to be flawless. The lock works, everything moves freely, the carbide faces look really good. If fact, if I had to say there's one bad thing about it is that this case is kind of roached out. So I might check and see. I might have a case that I can transfer this into that is nicer than this. Oh, it's also missing the micrometer wrench, but I've got plenty of extra micrometer wrenches around. Alright guys, that's going to bring this episode of Flea Market Finds to a wrap. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing and sharing the video. Until next time, take care.